Hiya, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
You want to go do a podcast?
Sure.
Jump in.
Ladies and gentlemen, cats and capybaras, secretary birds of all ages, and everyone else, welcome to Binging Barbie. I'm your host, John, and with me I have my co-host, Jay.
Yeah, not a lot of quotes to pull from this one.
Yeah, I mean, chirp, chirp, chirp,
Yeah.
meow. No, that's a different thing. Anyway, this is a podcast about toy media franchises, 2000s nostalgia, and whatever else we want to talk about. And this week we are talking about Away, the first feature film from Gints Zilbalodis, as well as his short films. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a series that I had the idea for, talking about Ice Age and thinking, hey, what is kind of the polar opposite of the Ice Age movies? And of course, I settled on Flow, which is not a talking animal movie. It is a not talking animal movie. And then going through his letterbox to realizing, oh, he actually has some interesting stuff. But yeah, anyway, he is a Latvian filmmaker and animator. He actually never went to school for animation. He is self-taught. And what's kind of interesting is that he has posted a lot of his work online on YouTube, so you can kind of see his progression here.
Yeah. There's a lot of self-taught Blender animators do that, and they're really cool. But this is one of the very, very few who gets the chance to make feature films, and later on win an Oscar for one. So very cool.
Yeah, we will definitely be talking about his career here. But yeah, we'll just quick run through the shorts
Shorts
that he has available on YouTube. The
Yeah.
first one that is available was released on YouTube on May 5, 2010. So it's been out there for quite a while, which is always fun to see when someone becomes famous, that they still have their old work out and available. I would assume he was in high school when he made this one. It's 2D animated. It's called Rush. It's very sort of
Yeah.
simple, a very short little film.
Yeah, about a minute something long, very short. And it's about a boy who tries to cross the street without looking and nearly gets hit by several cars. And he makes it across safely, but then falls down a manhole. Which, man, this person really needs to watch where they're going, look both ways across the street, because they didn't, and they were nearly killed many times. They weren't watching where they were going, and they fell down a manhole. I mean, it
It's the
happens.
classic short film subversion where you
It
have
is, yeah.
this idea of, oh, they've introduced the danger, I guess. So this is, we should say up top that pretty much everything we are talking about in this episode, Gints Zilbalodis worked on most of it entirely by himself. He does do some work with a composer later on and has some other people working on his films, but most of this is he is directing, he is writing, he is animating, he is doing all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, anyway, yeah, he is introducing this tension of, is the kid going to make it across the street safely? And then the classic turn of the kid gets across the street but then falls down a manhole, a danger that we were not even thinking of as an audience.
No, but I guess you could say it's very much in his style.
Yeah.
I had the fortune of watching his stuff Memento style, where
Yeah.
I started with Flow, and then I just watched everything backwards because why not? And so this was the last one I saw, and it was like, it's very short, but it's very pretty looking. It's like, it's 2D animation, very unlike everything else that he would later do. But yeah,
Yeah. I
simple,
would
to the
definitely
point, fun.
recommend, I actually saw that you had done the Memento style, so I did something a little similar. I watched Away, and then I watched all of the shorts in chronological order. I'd already seen Flow a couple times, but I do definitely recommend, if anyone is interested in looking at the shorts, make sure to watch his features first, because the shorts kind of feed into those in ways that are interesting. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
here we're seeing, because one of the striking things about Zilbalodis's style is his approach to camera movement. So it's really cool to see, even in just this like very short 2D animated thing that he's done, he is doing that sort of the longer takes, the handheld style. There's like the camera is shaking and moving in a way that feels very distinct, um, in a way that continues to be the case. There's less of it here than in some of his later stuff, but there's just little brief moments of it that then we'll see in his next film, which is Aqua. He starts to double down on that a little bit more. And yeah, that was released on June 2012. This one, we know he was at high school for this one because he actually posted that in the description of the video. Um,
Ah.
this is sort of a precursor to what would become Flow. We see a cat
Yeah.
which survives a flood by taking refuge in a little rowboat, tries to go fishing, but is swept away from the boat and is rescued by a seagull of some sort that teaches the cat how to fish. And then the next day, the floodwaters recede, and just as the cat is getting its bearings, another flood begins.
Hmm. Yes. I was so taken aback by this one, watching a Memento style, because for one, it's 2D animation, and so the cat was like so differently drawn and animated, and I was like, "Whoa, what? This is Gints? That's interesting." But then slowly I realized, hold on, this is Flow. This is the precursor
Yeah,
to Flow. It was like so interesting just how very short it gets through like the basic thing of the cat surviving the flood. And I was just so fascinated. Like even back then, like he got cat movements correctly in 2D animation. It's like, oh, that's very cool. I've really enjoyed seeing the evolution of how he animated cats because they're all very different in each project that he does. Some don't quite look like cats. um, this one is very interesting being 2D and not extremely detailed, but the movement is just very fluid and very cool and just really fun to see.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and we're seeing again. This is a very basic outline of what would become Flow, and Flow, I think, actually expands really well on this one, bringing
Yeah.
in new elements and adding stuff to turn this into a feature length narrative. Um, but we are seeing like themes that will continue to show up. A lot of his films are sort of cyclical, or there's a sense of things starting over, or like this has already kind of happened to some extent. We'll talk about that with Away. um, I think with Flow as well,
Sure.
there's a sense that like on some cosmic scale this type of flood has already happened. So to see it
You
played
can
out
see
here
it
of like
more in
you
this
can,
film
yeah,
where we see the flood happen twice, and you can we'll
yeah,
talk more about this next week, of course, but you can kind of see little hints of that in the second in this remake of this small film.
yes, yeah, this is very much designed of you could hit replay at the end of this film and watch it as if it were a continuation of the film because it goes back to the beginning. um yeah, well, there's almost a sense of, for me, of like it doesn't quite work, but there are certain ways you could read this as a prequel to Flow. Now obviously the cat,
Sure.
how much it retains knowledge between those, it doesn't make sense, but
Maybe it's a different
it
cat.
feels like there's something there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is exciting to, I mean, we haven't talked about a director like this since Nolan, I don't think. um
Hmm.
so to see a creator just kind of like exploring ideas that then get expanded, that's always just fun to see. But yeah, his next film doesn't, has a lot of ideas but not narrative elements so much that get recycled. This is Priorities, released on YouTube on April 30, 2014. Yeah,
Yeah.
a
It's about
pilot
a
and his
pilot
dog
and his
get,
dog caught in the storm, Which one wants to do
Oh,
it?
you could go ahead.
All right. It's about a pilot and his dog getting caught in a storm and crash landing on an island, and where he tries to build a raft, but then the dog falls off the raft, and so the pilot rescues the dog, but the raft gets destroyed, and he sends up flares, and the plane comes to rescue them. The title is specifically about his priorities in life versus like, do I take care of the dog who just wants to play fetch, or do I try to save our life and build a raft and ignore the dog's needs?
Yeah, it is interesting in that we do get the sense that him playing with the dog, because he does still get the raft built. Um, but then the other decision that he makes is to go back to save the dog, even though he I don't know if he knows that the raft is going to get destroyed, but there is this danger to it. And he decides to make that decision, and it ends up working out. Um,
Sure, the
Again,
danger
we're
isn't
seeing this.
quite made clear until after it happened, where
Yeah, yeah,
he goes back to save the dog, and then next we see that the raft is destroyed. We don't see how it happens, but we assume that
yeah,
it's through some process of prioritizing the dog versus going to whatever settlement that he found.
yeah. Which, yeah, it is interesting. This does have. I mean, it has this sort of the idea of this storm, which shows up in Flow and shows up in Aqua, um, and then this plane crash, which shows up in Away as well.
Yeah,
I was kind of
I
when this started, I was expecting this to kind of be like closer to Away. I think this is a very different story though, even though it has that plane crash element and the person trying to survive this event.
oh, also the cave that he's residing in looks very familiar to the entrance of the oasis that we see in a way,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
did look very familiar. It's like even watching this, I'm like, okay, I can see some elements, some small elements that I can potentially see in a way, and so I see his style very much in this film.
yeah. It's again, it's really interesting to see. This is also his first 3D animated film, so we're kind of seeing his style be translated into this new dimension, and we're seeing that handheld. I actually think the handheld camera movements work much better in 3D than they did in 2D. I mean, his 2D films are very good, but here we're starting to see that sort of the way he can move the camera feels a little bit more natural to the 3D um, style. And yeah, this is also I should mention that with this one and with Aqua as well, and a couple of the upcoming ones, he actually worked with a composer named Bertram's Paul's Pruvisk. I don't know how to pronounce that name. I apologize. So yeah, he did a couple films with this composer, but then actually learned how to compose music himself, and so his features are composed by himself. But yeah, I think this is really bringing in one of my favorite things about Zilbalodis as a director, which is his ability to make compelling settings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like the environments here are very very good and well realized.
Yeah.
Like yeah, this cave that they're in is such a fascinating, like the geography and geometry of it is very interesting to me.
Yeah. A lot of interesting wilderness and like semi. I don't want to quite say post-apocalyptic because that's future projects, but like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
vibe of like you're alone and there's a past history that's no longer here. It's just isolation and such. It's very interesting.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, he followed this up with Followers, released on YouTube on January 29, 2015. So little under a year after his last one. This
Yeah.
is A robber brings his son on a job and they get stopped by cops, and the dad shoots a cop. The kid is traumatized by this and lets himself get arrested. Sometime later, he escapes from prison as a young man. And in a separate story that then gets folded in, a kid escapes from school and tries to steal a wallet from a man on a bus. The man notices and chases the boy, but gets punched by the young man who escaped from prison previously. The young man breaks into his father's house to steal back the money, and his father shows up, but the boy incapacitates him, and they flee to a train station. But before they can make their escape, the young man is stopped by a cop. The boy jumps on the cop's back to distract him, and the young man almost shoots the cop, but realizes that he would just traumatize the boy the way that he was traumatized all those years ago. So he lets himself get arrested again, and the boy returns to school.
Okay, interesting. Now that you've put everything that happened into this neatly organized description, I had no idea what was happening when watching this. I was so
Okay.
confused about what was going on. I kind of got it by the kind of got it by the end of like, okay, we're breaking the cycle of whatever's happening here, but like I had no idea what the relationships were with anyone. Um, yeah, it was just like a little confusing thing that I kind of got the main theme, but I was lost in like the way the story was being told. So
Yeah,
yeah, this is
I
one
had
that
to go back and figure out which the because the characters, again, none of these films have any dialogue. So the distinguishing things with the characters are the visuals, and in this one specifically, the hair colors. Um, so yeah, it is a
yeah
little difficult unless you're paying super close attention and trying to figure it all out. Like you might not realize that he's going. Actually, I don't know for sure that he's going to steal from. Actually, I don't even know that the guy is his dad. I'm just
yeah.
assuming based on how things are framed.
It's
But
just like this
yeah,
random guy with a mustache and black hair shows up with a gun, and the kid beats him with a bat. I'm like, okay, who is that? What happened? I don't know.
because that's the dad at the beginning has that hair and that mustache, so I
Yeah,
assume that's what's happening. But yeah, this is sort of the cycles showing up again. We see this is now someone breaking a cycle, but characters being put in these situations that other characters have before and trying to get a different outcome.
the thing that's done here that's not really done in most of Gint's work is that there's actual shadows and lighting on the characters and shading, where the other films they're all blankly lit, um, and so which makes it really hard to tell features on the characters because it's all like flat. Here I could tell, oh, this is the outline of his chin, or that's the nose because the shadows on his face showed that. This is what I wanted to see in his other work, but for some reason he didn't include, which made the animation feel lesser in some regard, which we'll talk about
Yeah,
more later.
let me look into this because it is possible. I think this one, just looking at the credits, had more people who worked on it than some of his other stuff. Okay, so he does have people he thanked in the credits, but I'm not seeing specific jobs. So that could just be people that helped him out with stuff, or that could be people who were doing stuff. But yeah, that is kind of interesting that this one has a very distinct style, and yeah, to me it still looks very much like his other films, and I think Flow starts to bring in. We'll talk
Oh
about
yeah,
when we get to Flow, but
yeah.
yeah, I think that is something worth pointing out, that the visual style here is a little different.
Yeah, flow is like the perfection of the style with the shading that's really needed.
Yeah,
And again,
and
we'll talk more
yeah.
about this. Yeah.
I will just to preview that discussion. One thing is that Flo, he did actually work with a bigger team on that one.
Yes, of course.
So
So that helps.
yeah. uh, but yeah, this is oh this kind of reminded me in some ways of Following, just Christopher Nolan's following, which I'm now just realizing, oh, it's
Ah,
basically the same title. Um, but with the idea of, the people breaking in and robbing and that kind of stuff. I don't think that's I think this is just any similarities, I assume, are just kind of unintentional. But since we are talking about, like, we did talk about Nolan, so that is kind of an interesting connection there. But yeah, he also, his next short film is called Inaudible. This was released on YouTube on August 18, 2015. And in this one, a young man cleans the streets of a city. Oh, why don't you go ahead since I did the last one?
sure. Yeah. In this, a young man cleans the streets of a city in the shadow of a windmill. And he used to be a trumpet player, but then he was struck by lightning and he is now deaf. And he so much longs to play music again. And due to this anguish, one night he gets drunk and causes trouble in town, antagonizing other players. And he realizes that he's hurting others. And during the next storm, he climbs to the top of the windmill, plays his trumpet, and then he gets struck by lightning, and that's how it ends. Bit of a bummer ending, or maybe not, depending on how you look at it. Again, there's no dialogue. It's a little ambiguous whether or not the lightning struck at the end killed him or healed his hearing. We don't know.
Yeah, yeah. There is that ambiguity there. It's interesting because I think of Zilbalodis as like a relatively optimistic filmmaker in some ways. So it is interesting to have this somewhat more dour one. Yeah, I
Optimistic.
don't or not. I don't know. Like, both Away and Flow have sort of life affirming aspects to them that I don't get to the same degree with this short.
Usually at the end of this stuff, there's like a little sense of hope
Yeah,
after
yeah,
like such a struggle. Here I don't know if it's there or not. It's so
yeah.
ambiguous.
That's a good way to put it.
I'd like to believe that there is, and that getting struck by lightning again healed his deafness. You can kind of infer that by the way the sound comes back during the credits, but we don't know any other way. Like it could just
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know.
uh, oh yeah, and he actually has one final short film that I'm going to bring up here, which is actually unavailable to watch, and there's a good reason behind that. This was released March 27, 2017. Looks like at a film festival. It's called Oasis,
Mm-hmm.
and the reason that we aren't covering this one and that it is unavailable is that this is actually the first segment of the film Away. So if
Yeah.
you remember the film Away, it starts with a chapter title, and so it's the first chapter essentially. Um, and getting into that, so Zilbalodis in like 2015, I was watching an interview where he went all into the production of Away. In 2015, he had this idea he wanted to make a feature film, but he wasn't sure that he was going to be able to get the funding or have like the time and energy to
Oh.
do a full feature. So he designed it as 4 individual short films. And the idea was that he would make one at a time, and then if he needed to stop at a certain point, then he had like, okay, here is a completed short film that I can use. So Oasis was, he got a grant from the Latvian government to make Oasis, and actually like took it to several film festivals. I wish it was out there to watch because he took it around to different film festivals. It got good reception, but then he actually went back and reanimated it. So what we are seeing in a way is the same story, but there is different animation. And just looking at stills from it, you can see there is a difference in the visuals of how it is characterizing this oasis. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
I
that
wish
would be
it
cool
was
to see,
available,
but
yeah.
it is like, yeah, it is kind of available. I am wondering. I should look this up because Criterion Collection is putting out, or will have put out by the time this episode is out, a Blu-ray release of Flow, and along with that, they are including Away, the full feature. So it'd be
Nice.
kind of cool if they put the short film Oasis, or at least made that available. But I do also understand that, like, he redid this film, so I could understand why he wouldn't want this one to be out and available necessarily if he feels that the other version he made is better.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, with that, we can enter our discussion on Away. This was released on June 4, 2019, after spending 3 years in production. It was first screened at the Croatian Film Festival, or the Croatian Festival Anima Fest, Zagreb, and it is directed, written by, music by, everything done by Gints Zilbalodis. He
Yes.
made this by himself.
Yes. Yes.
Insane.
Using Blender, you know.
This one he actually used Maya. Blender he used for Flow.
Ah, okay, that makes
Yes,
sense.
yes.
Maya, the other one.
The other one, yeah, basically.
Yes.
Um,
Right.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's incredible that he did this all by himself. The credits are, I think, the shortest credits I have ever seen for a feature film. It's literally just two pages. One of it is a film by Gints Zilbalodis, and the other is just like special thanks to. And then actually, I think there might be a little thing for the financiers, because this was financed by the Latvian government.
Of course,
Yeah.
gotta do that. But going into the story of Away, here a young boy wakes up hanging from a parachute stuck in a tree. He is grabbed by the Nightwalker from Princess Mononoke, okay, and he manages to escape running through a giant stone arch. A Nightwalker stops and stands in the arch watching the boy. And the boy finds himself in a little oasis with plenty of water and fruit, along with navigational supplies, a motorcycle, and a map showing the island he is on. The oasis is on the far west side of the island, with a series of stone arch leading to the east and a port town of some sort. The boy also finds a bird that is unable to fly and rescues it when it wanders into the Nightwalker's deadly grasp. The boy packs up his supplies and takes off on the motorcycle, and the Nightwalker follows, killing every living creature it comes across. The boy reaches an old bridge over a deep gorge and uses a boulder to knock it down while the Nightwalker is on it. The bird also falls, but is taught by another bird how to fly, and joins the rest of the flock. When the boy stops for the night, he dreams of an airplane crash. Later in his journey, he comes across the wreckage from the crash. Meanwhile, the Nightwalker climbs out of the gorge, and the boy reaches a high mountain pass and has to dismount the motorcycle to push it. And when he looks behind him, he sees the Nightwalker stalking him again. The boy reaches the top of the pass, but passes out from exhaustion. The Nightwalker grabs him, and before the boy dies, the bird shows up, pulls him out, and to like the power of Jesus or something, the Nightwalker like vanishes or something. And the boy wakes up and sees the port town in the distance. And before he can fully get his bearings, he notices an avalanche bearing down on him. And he rides his motorcycle off a waterfall. And Tom Cruise style, yes, and swims to shore where he sees a group of villagers. And that's the end.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
no dance party to end this one, like usually happens when we talk about movies on this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like, I'll be referencing the interview I listened to a lot throughout this, because I think it is very interesting. So yeah, you brought up when we talked about Followers, his short, that the story's a little bit difficult to follow here, and Zilbalodis seems to be aware of that as a potential issue here. So what we get is a very familiar adventure story,
Yeah.
but in a way that like makes it easy to keep track of, even without dialogue explaining things.
Yeah. Like watching this, it was like, oh man, this could be like this is like the plot of like a very fun indie video game
Yeah.
where okay, we show up. The kid is having to survive against this Nightwalker running away. It's like, okay, that's the adventure: solving puzzles, getting to the other side of the island, avoiding the creature. Um, kind of fun. Made me think of like maybe Shadow of the Colossus, but I have no understanding of that game, so
Okay.
maybe that's
Yeah.
not the correct
I mean,
understanding. But yeah,
it is like, I mean, just structurally, because we have like this opening chase where we see the I don't remember how Zilbalodis referred to the creature. I'm just
the
calling it the
shadow.
Nightwalker because yeah,
Yeah,
it's some sort of shadow creature. I was like, when I was watching the film, I was like, oh, that reminds me a lot of the creature from Princess Mononoke, the
sure.
Lord of the Forest, that then becomes the Night Walker and like even brings death in every step in that way. And then
Mm,
listening to the interview, Zeal Balotis did say that Miyazaki was a big influence on him as an animator. So I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm completely off base in drawing a connection between those two. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, we get
I
this opening chase. Which feels very video gamey, of like you have that first little action scene where you're learning the controls a little bit and then you end up in this safe tutorial area, this
hmm
oasis that he can then explore and like learn sort of the quote unquote mechanics of this. Here's the water, here's the food, and then he gets this like bag full of little items. So there's like a compass, there's a telescope, there's a map, all things that he's going to be using throughout this. He gets the motorcycle, which yeah, we'll talk about the motorcycle and visuals. It is a really cool visual, but for also like a very smart thing that Zeal Balotis is doing.
yeah.
But then we have
Also,
this like very clear path forward.
yeah, the
Yeah, go ahead.
motorcycle just has infinite gas.
Yes,
Does not need
I
to be
think that
refilled at all.
yeah, I wonder how they could have. I
I
think
mean, it
yeah,
doesn't really matter. That's not the point. But like, it was still like
yeah.
funny. This just think about. It's like, man, that motorcycle is infinite gas. That's very
I,
cool.
I think I think because there is so much attention paid to how this kid is like getting his drinking water, that it makes you kind of think of the motorcycle and like, well, where's the gas coming from? Like, now that he has the water, doesn't he have to worry about that? But yeah, it doesn't bother me too much. But yeah, we have this
No.
like very clear path forward and these like arches which are providing like, okay, that's the next goal visually. um which yeah, again, this all feels very video gamey in a good way. Like,
Oh
it's
yeah,
very easy to follow.
yeah.
And then I think throughout this also, what's really interesting is that there's the sense that this kid is not the only one to have gone on this adventure.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of like hints here and there, especially in the Oasis where we
Yeah,
have that mysterious person with the bag that shows us how to get there. Also, the motorcycle's there, and we
yeah,
later will find a skeleton. Ooh.
yeah. Which, okay, let's get into that because I really love that detail of, because in my mind I am thinking, I'm putting myself in this character's shoes and like, well, what would I do in this situation? That's like, survival stories are designed for that kind of thinking. And I was like, well, this oasis actually seems kind of nice. Why not just stay there? And we see the kid has like drawn this little circle with the night walker outline of like, oh, he's aware of this. And then he goes into this cave and sees just a bunch of those drawn on the wall and then a skeleton. And it's like an acknowledgement of, oh yeah, he could totally stay here, but if he does, he will eventually die here. Like, his
Yeah.
options are stay here in the relative safety and die, or risk going out and maybe get to this port town.
Yeah. A thing of note. This is more on the visual side. The skeleton is the most detailed thing in this film. Like, he has
Okay.
proper lighting, shading. It must have been like some asset that he found and put in because it's like
Well,
it does not match anything else.
I
That's
wonder if, since he went back to reanimate the first part of this, I do wonder if while he was doing that if this was one of the last parts that he worked on. I'd be curious about that, because
I
I
don't
think there
know.
is a sense of progression as the film goes on, that it's getting more ambitious in what it's doing.
Yeah, but this is glaringly different from the rest of the film
Okay,
visual wise.
yeah, it
I
didn't
was
stand
like,
out to
oh,
me in that sense, but yeah, that
mm-hmm.
I would be curious to rewatch and pick out that specific thing. And yeah, maybe he's pulling the asset from a library or something.
Sure. It was just like a funny little thing. It was like, oh, okay, that
Yeah, yeah.
skeleton is so much more detailed than the rest of the thing. Anyway, moving on.
But yeah, this is very reminiscent of sort of that genre of indie game. I'm thinking like Journey or Abzu, or I mean, there's so many of these. Even something
Limbo.
like, sorry, which one?
Limbo.
Yeah,
There's
Limbo is maybe a
yeah,
bit darker, but has those similar, that kind of journey, the lonely journey aspect, the danger that is following. Which, like, Journey doesn't have a following danger. I don't think Abzu does as well. Those are more
sure.
experiences.
Mm-hmm.
It does make for a surprisingly compelling story, especially like the deeper we get into it. This world feels so fully fleshed out. And yes, since there is no dialogue, you're having to put everything together yourself. If this were like a traditional animated movie with dialogue and, I don't know, an animal sidekick that makes jokes and is played by some
Yeah,
comedian, it would feel a little simple. But because it is so poetic, it works really well. The narrative just really worked for me.
yeah. I mean, there's other aspects as well, which we'll get into specifically when we talk about visuals. I hope there's a lot to say about the visuals here.
Yeah, yeah,
Not yeah, there's a lot to say about the visuals here. Surprisingly, though. Um, but yeah, I just love the sense. I just really love we're in this sort of semi post apocalyptic thing where there is a history to this land that we the audience are never gonna know, but like there are little pieces here and there that like show hints of something that happened. It's very interesting. I love like the world building and lore of stuff like that, especially in video games. Those are very prominent in video games.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
why like it's just exploring the world of video games is so much more fun sometimes than going through the story. But yeah, this is just very fascinating to watch and just like, oh, wonder what's going on here. What does it all mean? Ooh, you know.
Yeah, yeah, because there is this sense of purpose behind everything, that we are seeing this journey, that is, there's intentionality behind it. Yeah, I really enjoyed the story here. I thought it was very well told. It's interesting because watching this interview with Zilbalodis, he talked about how part of the reason he made the film without dialogue is that he doesn't think of himself as a good writer of dialogue.
Sure.
So he
Yeah.
was like, "Hey, I'll just make something without dialogue." And there's something so profound about that, of like, he made something so incredible without the need for dialogue. And he has said, he also said in that interview that he would eventually like to team up with a writer who can do dialogue and sort of work that out. Um, but yeah, that is interesting when I think of like other directors who are very good on a visual level but not quite as good on a dialogue level. Like George Lucas would probably have benefited from making something like this, where it's all world building and no dialogue. But obviously, he was working within the Hollywood studio system, where that kind of thing is not really an option.
Yeah, and
Um,
then like he would later, you know, just in implore his world into other writers, and they
yeah,
help flesh things out. And they're often like the best stuff from Star Wars. Um, George has great ideas, but his writing abilities are,
his
they're
dialogue writing
not
specifically. Yeah.
they're not top tier dialogue. We should say.
uh, but I mean, this is what is so exciting to me about this film, is that Zilbalodis knows what the limitations are and is working so wonderfully within those limitations and going beyond. Like he was in this interview talking about like the reason this is a boy's journey basically on his own for most of the film is because that's easier to animate.
Hmm.
But because he has done this, it like he then finds a narrative to build around that, sort of the story of loneliness and this this creeping like sense of solitude that is represented. He didn't say as much in the interview, but I do think the Nightwalker is sort of meant to represent loneliness, the sort of creeping loneliness that is stalking the boy, and that as he gets closer to the town and to civilization, that threat eventually gets taken care of. We'll talk about how it resolves that particular conflict because I have mixed feelings on that. Um,
Yeah.
but the way
Yeah.
Zilbalodis is able to like turn the constraints of what he is doing into a compelling narrative, and even stuff like the motorcycle. This is more to do with visuals, but we're talking about this right now. The motorcycle is such a fun visual idea that was born out of it is easier to animate a character riding a motorcycle than it is to animate them walking.
Yeah, very true.
So,
The walking was very janky. That's for sure.
but it's so brilliant because it is like, yeah, how are you going to sell this character's movement across this like giant vast island thing? Well, yeah, put him on a motorcycle because it will look so cool and also
Yeah.
is less work as an animator.
Yeah.
And he is like there is like animation going into it, even just the riding the motorcycle, but it is he's not having to like figure out how to move appendages in ways that are
Work
natural.
smarter, not harder, you know.
Yeah, but it is like the result is so profound. Like it
Yes.
works. He gets away with it.
Yes.
I'm not even gets away with it. He turns it into something very very cool. Yeah, it's incredible. This is the kind of stuff that like I don't necessarily have aspirations of becoming a filmmaker, but growing up, that was kind of like when people would ask, "What's your dream job?" I would be like, "Oh, I want to be a movie director." This
Yeah.
is the kind of stuff that makes me go like, "Oh, I kind of wish I was doing this."
Yeah. This is the kind of thing we'd wish we do, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
such a fascinating film just from beginning to end. It just sucked me in. I was like, this is interesting. I enjoyed this. This might be my favorite of his stuff, so
Oh, okay.
mm.
I was thinking the same thing. I love Flow quite a bit, but yeah, that this was drawing me in.
There's only one caveat to that, and we'll get to that later on.
Oh, yeah. I gave the story here a 4.5 out of 5. I was enchanted.
Yeah, I gave it a 4. Very good.
Yeah. Onto the characters as
Mm.
they are. I think the boy is very good as a protagonist. Like
Sure.
he's
Yeah.
intelligent in a way that like I was rarely frustrated by the decisions he was making. There are certain moments where like, oh, but in more of like the tension of is he going to figure this all out in time? Or like is he going to push the boulder in time versus the horror movie thing of like don't go to the basement. No, here he is making decisions that make sense as an audience member.
Yeah. His pace could be a little quicker at times, but yeah, he's making
Yeah,
smart decisions.
yeah. I think his stopping to rest. I think at a certain point, what the film does very smartly is it gets the Night Walker threat kind of out of the way for the entirety of the third chapter, so that that sense of like impending danger, the boy gets a little bit of a break from that and so is taking a bit more leisurely of pace. But then of course as an audience member you're like, well, the night walker is going to come back eventually, right? This isn't
Right.
the last we've seen of it. There's going to be more here. So
Yeah.
him taking the breaks and like the turtle catching up to him multiple times, which is just like a very fun way of when the Night Walker is out of commission, still keeping track of how quick the boy is moving.
Yeah, there was a lot of times where he was working harder and not smarter, just for like little minor things, like
Oh
when he
yeah.
stops at the cat water fountain and like sips water. Like, dude, you saw the water come out. Bring your little canteen with you to fill that up. And then instead, he had to wait till the next day to do that. Or when he goes and visits the plane, he like parks miles away from the plane and walks slowly to it. Just like small little things there. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
go on, kid. But yeah, very smart the rest of the time.
Yeah. I think because this is something that could so easily be the horror movie thing of don't go to the basement,
Sure.
where it's like the audience, you need to feel like the boy is functioning on a level of intelligence that is somewhat near what you would expect a character to function on.
Yeah, I also like that we see everything like the boy sees, so we can see clearly
Yeah.
what he's thinking, what he's observing, and we can kind of infer. It's like, okay, this is what he should do, and then he does that. And it's like, very nice, you did that, cool.
Yeah. And this is all done visually.
Yeah, yeah, no dialogue, amazing.
Like you can imagine, or I can imagine the version of this that is the Disney movie where it's the boy and he's constantly talking to himself, and then the bird is voiced by, I don't know who's a comedian who's big right now.
The bird, if Kevin Hart, the bird
Aquafina.
would. Oh no, even worse.
And he and the bird are having these conversations, and it's like suddenly turns into this like 90-minute long, I guess this is 90 minutes long already, but like into a more quippy adventure, and we're getting the boy is explaining all of the various things he's doing, whereas no, here Zilbalodis knows all you need is to show the character doing things with intention, and the audience will be able to follow along. And we have the basic outline of here's his goal, there's something after him, that's it. We don't need any more context. We understand how he's approaching these situations. And yeah, even just the thing of like his sort of mini refusal of the call, where he is in this oasis and it's kind of nice and he's enjoying swimming and he has plenty of food and stuff, and then he goes into this cave and like comes across the skeleton, and he is realizing, as the audience is realizing, that like, oh, he needs to get out of here because he doesn't want this to be his life.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's so good, such good filmmaking. Anytime a film trusts the audience to just provide visual information and let the audience put everything together themselves, that is very nice to see.
yeah. We also have a cute bird.
Yeah, I like the bird's little arc of learning to fly and then coming back to save the boy.
Yeah, he has some sort of spiritual connection with the boy where the boy can dream through the eyes of the bird and see what's happening. Very interesting. I had a weird theory about this.
Okay.
And in order to do that, we need to talk about the cats.
Okay, let's talk about the cats.
Yes, love the cats. Just love this herd of cats just circling this fountain waiting for the water to come out. Yeah. Kind of like it's like we're teasing Flo,
Yeah.
water, cats. It's a black cat. At first it didn't quite look like a cat. Kind of looked
Yeah,
like
they are oddly designed.
they kind of look like ferrets. Um
Yeah.
but hey, they were cute. I love their little hierarchy of getting water from this geyser. And then terrible stuff happens.
Yeah. yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll get to that because I have thoughts on that. I was not expecting this movie to kill off the cats.
I know.
I thought that
I'm
was the
glad.
line they would never cross.
I'm glad that they didn't focus on their dead bodies like they did the llama.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, man, you can't just kill cats like that.
Oh, I was glad the turtle made it. The turtle had a slightly better time of things. But yeah, the poor cats.
The poor cats. But going back to my weird little theory,
Yes.
I had so I came up with this weird theory because like the boy is connected to this bird somehow, and I'm wondering if the animals can have like a weird connection to each other where if one is in danger, if they're connected to this other animal, then the other animal was also in danger. Because the cats die, and then the birds die, and the birds were nowhere near
Yeah,
that
yeah,
monster. And so that like brought up this idea of like, are the birds somehow spiritually connected to these cats, and they all perish because the cats perish? Kind of like the Golden Compass, that logic.
yeah.
But
Which I do think. Yeah,
that's just me like overthinking it and like over theorizing, but like it was an interesting little detail that
yeah.
came up.
I do think because I think the birds are kind of like flying over the creature at that point, but it is ambiguous what exactly is going on here.
Right, right,
I
because
do think
because
the
then
yeah,
like the yellow bird doesn't die. He's
yeah,
part of that group. He doesn't die, and so that's what made me think, oh, he survived
yeah,
because the boy is still away. He's out there.
yeah,
So
that
I
could.
don't know.
Yeah, I do kind of. And again, I listened to this interview, but I didn't get a sense for if this is the kind of thing that Zilbalodis like has an answer to, or if this is just that made sense for what he was doing, the emotions of what he was animating at the time. So that's how he did things. I do think because at first, after watching the film, I wasn't sure if the sort of Nightwalker creature was meant to represent death or grief or something. But after listening to the interview, it's like, oh no, that is loneliness. And we have this boy who is on this lonely quest, and there is this sense of like the loneliness will eventually catch up to him if he can't make it back to society, which I think is a very cool idea. Zilbalodis actually talked about how that was sort of unconsciously about the making of this film, and that he was making this by himself, sort of like this journey he himself was going on, and the loneliness of that sort of manifesting in the story. So I do think having like the embodiment of loneliness sort of take away the flock of birds and the herd of cats, there is
Yeah,
something there. Again, the metaphor of I don't know that the metaphors are how intentional the metaphors are. Like I think there is intentionality of the Nightwalker as this like is meant to represent something bigger than just like a creature. But yeah, I don't know
sure.
how intentionally Zeobalotis was like building out the lore behind that. um
Right. And we don't really need the Nightwalker to represent anything. I think it
yeah,
works fantastically fine as just this ominous creature that just has it out for this random child. Um,
yeah,
he even avoids the turtle. The turtle surviving was the most shocking thing
yeah.
because
No, I thought the turtle was gone.
it's like the turtle was like right in the path of the monster, and the monster
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
ignored it, which was like uncharacteristic of the monster. So I don't know if the turtle like sidestepped him or something. um, but the
I'd like
turtle
to think
found
so.
his family, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, that was a cute little scene. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, this sort of ominous presence, that's stalking the boy, and like the boy can stop it briefly by throwing it down the chasm, but it does eventually make its way out of there. And as this as has to happen, there is this like final confrontation where the Nightwalker does catch up to the boy, and This is where I saw in your letterbox review that you were uncertain about this resolution, and I very much agree with you here, because I understand from sort of a metaphorical perspective, if this is the embodiment of loneliness, then having the bird come back to rescue him is like the sense of, oh, he has formed a little community here, and so that has like destroyed the loneliness, if that's what the Nightwalker is supposed to represent.
But
um
it's very ambiguous in how it's visualized
yeah,
defeating the
yeah.
thing. Um,
So I interpret it as, because the canteen falls open and the water spills out. So as I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, is there something special about that geyser water that he got from the cats that somehow counteracts the Nightwalker? Because
we
we
don't
we
know.
see we see the scene of the Nightwalker like watching the geyser, so there seems to be something going on there. Anyway, that's how I interpret it. I do kind of wish there had been a scene of, after the Nightwalker leaves the cats, the geyser pops up and like sprays up, and then like sprays on the cats, and then the cats all wake up, and it's like, oh, that the geyser somehow counteracts the Nightwalker. I think that would have maybe set up that final bit a little better.
It's yeah, it's also just like a really weird because we still have like that final act, like here's the
Yeah.
drama with the avalanche, and I'm just thinking you could have just continued with the monster coming down, cornering him, and then having him do that jump. Sure, is it not as epic as having this fast avalanche come in? Sure, but like the avalanche felt so random when it showed up. It's
Okay.
like, oh, it's a cool set piece, but it feels so random for that thing just to suddenly show up, and then our monster's just gone somehow. I don't know. Yeah, it's
Yeah. I kind of interpret it as the monster sort of exploding actually triggered the avalanche, because it
hard to
releases
say.
some kind of sound wave. There is like
Yeah,
a little bit of time between that and the boy waking up and having to run. I like the avalanche as like this final, like the big bad, quote unquote, that we have been
yeah.
worrying about this entire time is gone, but there's still, he's not out of danger yet.
It's still very cool. I don't know. I just wish that something slightly different was done with the big bad.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
that's like
I
my
don't
one gripe
disagree.
with the story. It's just like, oh, he's dead, but nope, Bird comes in and he's not dead. It's like, well, it's kind of similar to what happens in Flow with the bird in Flow,
Okay.
where
Yeah.
some sort of sacrifice takes place that solves things by the end. Maybe we'll talk about that
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it worked for me here. I think especially thinking about the Nightwalker as this metaphor for loneliness, it then makes sense that the bird coming back actually has some kind of magical counteracting power in that.
Sure,
Um,
yeah, as a
but yeah,
thematic
I
element,
don't disagree.
makes
Yeah.
sense. But like just as a, if you're just
As a
watching it normally,
narrative.
it's like
Yeah.
this really weird thing that happens. It's like, oh, well, wish we did that from the start. You know?
Yeah. I do like that it's an echo of the boy going and saving the bird at the beginning of the film.
Mm. Oh yeah.
But yeah, again, I do agree that like that could have maybe been set up a little bit better narratively. Again, I kind of think it's the water that has the effect on it, not the, but yeah, yeah.
The world may
Also,
never know.
it is interesting that we have those the sequences where, like, when the boy flashes back to the plane crash and we see the little tiny versions of the shadow creature falling out of the plane. I interpreted that as like the other people in the plane who have presumably died, and that's sort of the representation of them. And then we get, when he gets to the plane wreckage later on, that we see these figures again in the wreckage, and then he like blinks and then they're gone.
Yeah, that's we don't. I don't know. I don't know how to interpret that, but
Yeah,
it's
that that
it's an
that's what made
interesting
me think it
choice.
was a metaphor for like death or grief. But yeah, I again, I don't know that Zilbalodis had like a very specific metaphorical purpose with all of this stuff. I think a lot of it is more emotional, or he's playing around with what makes sense for the scene in the moment. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like I get the sense that it's very intentional, but maybe not something that you can easily read a metaphor into.
Sure.
And yeah, the design of the creatures is just very effective.
Yeah, very
Which I guess
ominous.
that that leads into the visuals here. I gave the characters a 4.5 out of 5. I was compelled.
Yeah, and I gave it a 3.5.
Yeah, the visuals here. We'll
First
address
up,
this first. It takes a second to adjust to. These
it
are like
does.
I think it's called cell shading. I don't know if that
It's
specifically
not.
refers to this. It isn't
This
okay.
this one no, because there is no shading in this. This is just cell. Yeah.
All cell, no shading. I mean,
Yep.
there is some shading. It's very blocky, or
There's very,
yeah,
very little shading if there is. None of the characters have shadows, which
no, yeah,
sometimes you can really like feel that it's like the characters don't always feel like they're part of the environment because their shadows don't show us where they're stepping in. Um, but yeah, no, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
continue.
It is very video gamey in that sense of like it's interesting. I was reading a review of this, I believe, that was like the animation style will be unknown to you unless you have played a lot of indie video games. And I'm like, I haven't played that many indie video games, but I have played enough for that to be what jumps out to me first. And that was my problem with Flow as well, is that as I rewatch this stuff and get more into it, the problem lessens. But there is a sense of like I'm wondering, okay, when do I pick up the controller and start the video game?
Yeah, yeah,
Again, I also think that this partially has to do with the camera movement style. That Zilbalodis is partial to a lot of long shots, and there's a sense of the camera existing physically in the world where it's shaking and moving in ways that you could imagine a camera moving, which is like really cool. He talked about in the interview being inspired by Alfonso Cuarón, who did Children of Men and Roma and I think Gravity as well. So a director who's kind of known for these longer takes and the camera, like orchestrating the camera movements in a very particular way. Um,
sure. I
that
guess
does
also like
also
the
feel a
environments
video
help
game.
blend into the video gaminess as well.
Yeah, yeah. I do think though, the more I interact with this, the less of a problem that is for me. I think that was just a me needing to get used to the style thing, not an inherent issue with the style.
My only issue with the style is just the lack of shading. Like that's it. Like I don't. I need more clear details on like what's a nose, what's a mouth in this kid, what's the head shape like, because it's really hard to tell like
Yeah.
what things are, because
When
it's
you're
all
looking at his face from the front, you cannot tell where his nose is.
right. Yeah. Like normally, like they'll have like more thicker lines sometimes to differentiate. That's like a
Yeah.
specific art style, but usually you defer that by using shadows and shading to help you get those features. But without that here, I was really missing it. I just really needed that, which Flow fixes all of that, of course. But
Yeah.
Flow is a
Yeah.
whole other story, you know.
Yeah. I it worked for me, but I was definitely like noticing of like, oh yeah, I can't. I think the turtle is where it jumped out the most to me, where the turtle's face doesn't look like a turtle face unless it's turned on certain angles. It just
Yeah,
looks like a weird smiley face.
yeah, it did. It really did.
But yeah, it worked fine for me
Hmm.
moment to moment. Um, I was just
For
like, oh yeah, we should
yeah,
get into like the minor quality issues. The boy's movement when he's walking around, if you are seeing his full body, it doesn't sell. Like I think his leg movement isn't the best when it's
sure,
a little
yeah,
closer up. Um,
yeah,
Again, it's very difficult to do movement in animation, and it's something that Zilbalodis, like when he's doing the animals all move so well. Um,
hmm,
I wonder if that's part of his reasoning for focusing on animals in flow and having no human characters in that, is that maybe he's a little bit more comfortable animating cats and birds and dogs than he is humans.
yeah,
Um, but like for the most part, it's just a handful of shots. Like for the most part, the movement looks very good. It's
yeah,
just like a couple of full body shots that don't quite sell me on it.
yeah. I mean, there's stuff. There's like minor stuff like that that I notice, but I can ignore that fine.
Okay.
Again, like my big gripe is just like I wish that there was shadow to help help give us more figure on what the characters are like. But I can forgive all of that, and what makes this film just great to watch is all the shot framing. It's
Yeah.
gorgeous. It's so stunning. There, there's one shot that just really struck with me. It's like the Nightwalker at the opening of the Oasis, just staring up. It's just a very
Yes.
ominous image.
Yes.
It's like there's so many great shot choices that I don't know if like any typical Hollywood animator would design it like that. It's just so cinematic and great that just helps lend to the story and just make it feel more than just something basic.
Yeah. And Zio Balotis talked in this interview a lot about his inspirations. He was inspired by animation filmmakers, but he was even more so inspired by live action filmmakers like Quaron. Um, I think you can see that sense for cinematic visuals really shine through here. Like there's such a sense of scale to everything, and the way the environments are designed, the way shots are framed, the way that the camera moves, it's yeah, there's nothing like it in animation. That even with the limitations here, we are seeing such an incredible work. And like again, this is he is the one person working on this. This is all him. Stuff like the water effects are pretty bad here, but
That's just
that is
Maya.
just yeah. It is it is limitations that like when he was planning flow, he was like, oh, I actually need more people on this just because the water simulation is going to be very important, and that's not something that one single person can do. um
Hmm.
so yeah, no, we are seeing like he is doing so much, and like again, this looks so good for something that one person worked on. Like this should not be possible for a single person to do all of this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. If they did, it would take a really long time to do. Um,
Yeah,
for sure.
which it did. It took him 3.5 years to make this. And he also was in this interview saying that if it was like part of it was that this was a passion project for him, so he was motivated to do it. Versus if this was like a work for hire, it probably would have taken him longer. Um,
Sure. Yeah.
but yeah, you get the sense that like he is enjoying the freedom that he is allowed here because he is the one working on this. That yeah, there's just so much creativity here. I also just love all of the different settings. Like moss covered stone is one of my favorite visual things. Just the contrast between the green and then the darker colors of the stone, the dark grays. Um, we also get these like really good forests and this oasis, which is really cool. It's very lush and idyllic. Really cool mountains as well. Like we get not only the snow-capped mountains from the end, but we also get some cool like volcanic looking mountains, like where the plane
Yeah.
crash is. The I mean the poster image is the Mirror Lake, which is one of the best scenes in the film. Is um him driving over this lake that is a perfect mirror, and there's a flock of birds, and it looks like he is riding his motorcycle in the middle of a flock of birds in the sky.
Yeah. Also, the lake is one where you could walk on, or
Yes, yeah.
maybe it's really thin. One of
It's
those
like
two.
that one. It's like that one in is it in Chile?
Is there a lake like that?
Yeah, there's a lake like that somewhere. It's like a very shallow lake. I think it might even be like one of those things where um it's only like that when it rains, like right after it rains. Um
Sure.
okay, yeah, it is in Chile. You can look it up. Chile Mirror Lake. Let me see what the actual name. Oh, this is a Salar de Uyuni. It's a salt flat that then after it rains,
Yeah.
yeah, it I mean very stunning. And yeah,
Very
I think
stunning.
that
The
it's such a
poster of
really
this
good,
film, you know?
yeah, yeah, it's so good. I love all of that stuff. And as we're
Mm.
getting further into the film, like we start with this desert, and then we go into the oasis, but we're doing the desert, and then we do this like moss covered tundra type area. So these very like simple, we're getting a lot of hills and rocky, craggy areas, but there's not a lot of trees or stuff. But as we go on, we get into there's more trees, there's even some structures. Um, and then by the end, we're like in the mountains, and there's this avalanche, and he's jumping off of a waterfall, and there's this like town off in the distance. Like it really does feel like we are watching someone learn to to use all of the tools as they are making the film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because yeah, this is like, even though Zilbalodis didn't make this as a university student, this is essentially a student film. He was making
Yeah.
this as a way to experiment and figure out, and it doesn't feel like a student film. It is so well made that it kind of transcends that. But you do still get the sense of you're seeing this progression and things are getting more complicated. By the end, we have this like avalanche, which is like requiring effects work that we haven't seen, and it looks a little polygony, but it is still very impressive, and there's this epic scale
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. It's very cool and fast paced.
Yeah, and like throughout this, we're getting just these little moments of like beauty where Zilbalodis is like holding on these little moments of quiet and tranquility. Yeah, it does remind me a lot of Studio Ghibli films, or that sort of sensibility of, hey, we're going to let these moments breathe a little bit and let you as the audience enjoy just the world and the environment around these characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, what is also really exciting about this is that we then see in Flow, he is taking everything he learned here and improving upon it even beyond what he does here. That he's bringing in a level of quality, and since he has a team, he can do more with environmental effects or water or these different things. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah,
Even
it
like
makes me
character
even more
movements.
excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it makes me so much more excited for whatever he does next. That
Which
he has been able to jump this far from his first
Which
feature.
whatever he's doing next kind of seems interesting
Yeah.
from the little scraps of information we have at this time of recording.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to see. Again, this definitely feels to me like we talked about it when we talked about Christopher Nolan, that his first film Following came out and didn't get much of a response, but there were some people who watched it and said, "Hey, this person's going to make a great film." And then Memento comes out and you get a little bit more of that. There's more people going, "Hey, this is someone to watch." That's definitely how I am feeling watching these Zilbalodis films, that like everything he is doing so well here is going to lead up to something even greater than anything he has done before.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's in his 30s. Like he's in his early 30s. He's not that much older than we are. He has
No.
a long career ahead of him. And
Yep, all
if
we've
this is
done
the
is
point
make
where
this
he
podcast.
yep. Oh. But yeah, that he is like, there is so far for him to grow, and it is exciting to think about that. You
Mm,
know, where is he going to be in 10 years
sure.
if this is what he is making as his first ever feature? So yeah, with all of that said, I gave the visuals a 4 out of 5. Again, docking a point for like some of the jankiness, but what he is able to achieve is just beyond what should be possible.
Yeah. And I gave it a 3.3. This is for like the fantastic shot framing. Like just comparing comparing like the specifics of the visuals to like anything else professionally made. Like yes, there is really no comparison, but the shot framing is really where it's at. So 3.3 from me.
On to performances. There are none. We can
No,
skip
there are
this.
not. Yeah,
I factored it into our final score so that everything, the math will math out all right.
that
Um,
sounds good.
but yeah, last up we have the sound.
Very cool music, really
Yeah,
fitting of whatever is going on. I love the ambient and ambience of it.
yeah, it's really well made. And again, this is Zilbalodis is doing his own music. He is
Sure.
doing everything here.
My mother doesn't really care for it, but
Okay.
that's just my mother.
So did she watch this with you?
No, she was like in the other room, and then like she's coming in. She's like, "What's you watching? This is kind of like that cat movie." It's like, "Yep, it is." It's like, okay, that's some really weird music, and then she leaves.
uh,
Um, but I really liked the music. I think it just really helped again with like the tension. It helped with like the
yes.
moments of just awe of what's going on. Um, I don't remember the specifics of the music, but I love that it worked really well with what was going on. So it
Yeah.
worked really well.
It hadn't occurred to me until I was watching the sequence of the boy trying to push this boulder onto the bridge that Zilbalodis is really, really good in that way that a lot of the best directors are at conveying tension and building tension, because Flow also has a lot of those moments of tension building. And I think watching his short films, you can kind of see even with Rush, he's trying to do the sort of tension thing, and it's kind of working there, but it is also like it's something that he improves on as he grows as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And yeah, the score is doing that. Like there's also just so many moments of beauty as well that are really helping sell. Like again, the visuals have an inherent lack of quality because this is a very low budget film being done by literally one person, so there's only so much he can do, but the music is really selling the beauty of those moments. And there are some like genuinely beautiful shots, like the shot of the airplane going down could
Mm,
be
yeah.
in a significantly higher budget film and you would not. The Mirror Lake stuff, a lot of that is, again, he is operating at a level that is really impressive, given that it is just him. Um, Same thing with the sound, with the music. He is doing so much here, and it works so well.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I'm gonna bump up my score. I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5 for the music. And
Oh.
you know what? I'm gonna do that for the animation. I'm feeling generous.
All right. We'll see what that does with flow. Um,
I mean, I'm gonna bump up my scores for flow as well.
I yeah, I'm not doing that, but I did. Yeah, yeah. I give the
Just
music a 3.5.
yeah, listening to him do this interview and talk about the process of making this. Yeah, it's phenomenal that he was able to do this and get this done and see this through and come away with something that is a genuine film. This doesn't feel like a student film. This doesn't feel like an experimental art piece. This feels like a movie that you could show to someone and be like, "Hey, watch this movie." They'd be like, "Hey, that was a pretty good movie."
Yeah, probably not my parents though. They're not really. This is not
Yeah,
really the
they're,
film for
they're,
them.
yeah, they have to be sort of receptive to the idea of a film that doesn't have dialogue and is a little bit slower and a little bit more. I don't know what adjective I'm going for, but you can
Yeah.
imagine an
Also looks
adjective.
like a indie video game as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
I could imagine sitting down and watching this with my friends.
Oh
And
yeah,
actually, I think I might have to do this of sitting down, watching this with my friends, be like, "Hey, here's this cool movie. Check it out." Then as the credits roll, be like, "One person made this," and get their reactions
yeah.
because it
Um,
is insane.
yeah. I don't know if I have that type of group of friends, but yeah, we'll see.
uh,
Yes. Yeah. So I have a total score of 17.875, which is a 71.5%, or a 3.575 out of 5. That's a weird number.
yeah, it's the weirdness of without the voice acting category, the numbers are weird. I have a 22.5 out of 25, which is a 90% or a 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah. This was like a blast. Or this was like
Yeah.
really fun. Like I was putting it off because I was like, oh okay, I liked Flow. I don't know if I want to like watch a whole nother thing that's exactly like Flow. And then I watched it. It's like, man, I think I like this more than Flow. I just vibed
Yeah.
with the adventure and the characters just so much. It was so much something that I enjoyed. But yeah, can't wait for Flow next time.
Yeah, I'm
So
excited for that as well. I definitely feel similar to you. I think I did like this more than Flow, even though I really love Flow.
story wise, yeah, Flow
Yeah,
Flow
yeah.
has amazing concept, and we'll talk about Flow
Yes.
next time.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. Well, in that case, thank you everyone for listening. Make sure to follow us on social media. We're Binging Barbie Podcast on Instagram and Tumblr, Binging Barbie and Blue Sky and Serialized, and Binging Barbie, a Barbie Movie Podcast on Letterboxd. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a 5-star review and go to our Patreon at patreon.com/Binging Barbie Podcast. We will be back next week to talk about Zilbalodis' Oscar-winning follow-up, Flow. And until then, don't let any shadowy creatures catch up to you. Unless you have Jesus water. I don't know.
Bye, Barbie.
Bye, Barbie.